wake up all of a sudden and decide that they're going to become physically abusive. They don't wake up one day and say, hey, guess what? I want to emotionally abuse my significant other. This is who they are, and this is who he's always going to be. He can get all the help in the world, Yolanda, but that's not your problem anymore. The most important thing for you to do is to actually take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is doing your best to help yourself out of that situation. And Yolanda, I'm not in a situation with you right now. I don't know about the finances. I don't know if you all are living together, whatever the case might be. So I'm not going to say, leave today. Because if you leave today, the next question is, where are you going to go? But I am going to say this, Yolanda. You have to start taking some affirmative steps at potentially leaving. And that affirmative step is looking for additional resources. Perhaps it's finding a shelter. Perhaps it's, I don't know if you all have kids together or if you have a kid or children. Finding care for them. Now's the time that you actually start setting your plan for how you can exit that situation. And when your man tells you, Yolanda, that the reason why he hurts you is because it's your fault, bullshit. It's not your fault. I know you're not perfect. Hell, he's not perfect. We get it. But it should never come to the point where he has to physically harm you just to prove a point. If he's doing that, Yolanda, he's not good for you. In your heart, you know that. But situations being what they are, emotions being what they are, right now I imagine that you feel like you're stuck. Now's the time that we start to set aside that plan. There are a great deal, there are a number of shelters, there are a number of phone numbers that we can provide you offline where you can actually go to get help. Because if we start to set that plan now, in terms of your being able to leave eventually, the better off you're going to be. Because this is about you empowering you, Yolanda. Because if you don't step into who you really are, you're going to continue to be what you are right now, and that's a victim, and that's what you are. It's not your fault. And when he comes at you with this whole thing about the reason why I hurt you is because you make me hurt you, no. He's dealing with his own insecurities. He's dealing with his own demons, but his demons are not your demons.
Oh, phenomenal, Jason. That's phenomenal. That's exactly it. And we all have a choice.
Absolutely.
You have a choice. Don't let anybody tell you out there that you don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these abusive situations, they from my understanding, again, Jason, I'm not, I'm nowhere near you, with this, but you hit it so perfectly when you said this. People just don't wake up one morning and go, you know what, I'm a real butthead and I like beating women now.
Right.
No, this has been in their nature for a long time, and I would probably check and really ask, I don't know how many relationships has this person been in.
That's a great question.
Is this the first relationship that he's ever been in, or has he been in others? And this same situation more than likely had happened to where, he gets into a new relationship and now he's going to be on his best behavior. But if they're doing it, that's ingrained. That's not going to change. And there's so many women out there, unfortunately, that didn't take Jason's advice here and move on and try to get that exit. I would definitely, Yolanda, be working on an exit strategy.
Absolutely.
Because that is not going to change. In most cases, please forgive me. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any major credentials to do that. This is just from personal observation with some friends that I've known. Is it just escalates?
Yeah, and I'm going to say something to that point. It escalates. Now, I'm going to say something to you, Yolanda, that I think so many people, especially women, and keep in mind this comes from a loving place, but you're also guilty of it at the same time. There's this belief that you can change your significant other, right? Please understand, there are certain behaviors that will change over time. How do I know this? Because the husband that I was yesterday is definitely different than the husband I am today, right? You grow, you develop, but there has to be the sincere desire to grow. You might have the belief that you can change your boyfriend. If he's physically abusive, Yolanda, he's not going to change. And let's just say hypothetically he changes tomorrow. He goes, gets counseling, fixes himself up, and he looks at you and says, Yolanda, I love you, and I want to be the man that you need me to be. With all due respect to you, Yolanda, what are you going to remember more? The flowers he buys you today, or the beating he put on you yesterday and the potential beating he's going to put on you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You can continue to hope that he's going to change. You can continue to hope that the relationship is going to get better, but I'm here to tell you it's not. It's not. He could become second to Jesus tomorrow in terms of his great deeds. He could be the kind of man that Gandhi was. But you're going to remember the kind of man that he was before that, and he's the man that beat you. He's the man that made you feel small. Life is too grand. Life is too large for you to feel small.
Absolutely.
He's not a man, Yolanda.
Yeah, you bet. I've seen abusive relationships, and they're not pretty. And they generally start out subtle like that. Some pushing, some shoving, some verbal abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're a piece of dog do, and the reason why I'm doing this is because you're making me do that.
Exactly.
And it's your fault that I'm acting this way, so you need to get your act together so I can get my act together. That's all wrong.
Right.
And if that person is going in that, so first of all, if a person's putting blame on somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
that's all bad. That's a big red flag.
Exactly.
If they're saying it's your fault that I'm no good, well, then that's a big clue right there, Jason.
Because psychologically, to your point, Bob, psychologically, he gets something from this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he's dealing with his own insecurities, and I guarantee you his own insecurities make him feel incredibly small. He feels like the big man every time he lashes out at you. And he might be, let's be fair to the guy. He might be acting out something that he saw in his previous relationships. He might be acting out something that he saw amongst his mother and father,
Mm-hmm.
brother and sister, whatever the case might be. But again, I go back to one core tenet. It's not your problem. But he's made it your problem in this current situation because he's taking out his own insecurities and his own small, whatever you want to call it, out on you. And you're much larger than that, Yolanda. So at this point, we now have to start putting together a plan of exit. And I'm not saying
an
leave
exit
today.
strategy.
An exit strategy. And I'm not saying leave today, but I am saying, Yolanda, for the good of your physical well-being as well as your emotional well-being, it's time to start preparing yourself to leave. I know I was in a emotionally abusive relationship when I was in my 20s. It didn't start out that way. Beautiful woman. Seemed like she had everything and anything I thought I wanted at that moment in my life. And just little by little by little, she tried to change me. I divorced myself from my friends, where
Wow.
she literally became my life. My thoughts were her thoughts. My words were her words, right?
Oh boy.
And it got to the point where even my parents are taking a look at me saying,
Who are you?
Who are you? We don't recognize you.
Where'd you go?
But see, Yolanda, with all due respect to you, when you're in that bubble, when you're in that place where you can't see outside of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't see what the rest of the world sees. And the rest of the world, and I'm saying your family and your friends and your associates, your co-workers, they're probably taking a look at you saying, Yolanda, we see this beautiful woman, right, who's allowed herself to be in this situation, but we get ourselves trapped in those situations. I was trapped. And it took some very unfortunate circumstances for me to pull myself out. And I'm going to say, when somebody's emotionally abusive, when somebody's physically abusive, it's like they're killing you slowly but surely.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's a tough way to go.
They're taking your identity away, and that's not fair.
Absolutely.
That is not fair at all, because, and again, with on the male side, Yolanda, your boyfriend or husband or whatever he is, he may not, he more than likely is not a bad man.
Right.
It's not the saying that he's bad and this is awful and this is,
Mm-hmm.
We all, as children go through different situations and certain things get, ingrained up here, visual stuff that has caused, some damage.
Absolutely.
So obviously there's damage done. It's not to say that it can't be irreversible, but that person also, in my opinion, again, not a doctor here, needs to seek his own therapy and his own help
Right.
to deal with those issues and start taking responsibility
Mm-hmm.
to himself to, okay, why am I doing this?
Exactly.
It's not you that's making me do this, but why am I? He needs to research himself as well as you to research yourself. Why am I letting this happen?
Exactly. Exactly. When you look at any of the literature out there on domestic abuse and just
Mhm.
battery as a whole, the trend that we see time and time again is that the abuser knows what they're doing is wrong. The abuser knows that what they're doing is something that, in their right mind, they wouldn't want to do. There's a largely a feeling of remorse. So,
Mhm.
the woman or the man, because the worst kept secret is that men get abused also. The woman or the man abuses their significant other, right? They acknowledge that they physically hurt them. They acknowledge that they've emotionally hurt them, and then they spend the next couple of days trying to make it up to them, saying, "I'm trying to get better. You know, I'm trying to get better." But that's when they interject that whole thought of, "But it was your fault that I hurt you. It wasn't me. It was you." But internally, they know it was you. They know it was themselves. They're dealing with their own internal demons. But I keep coming back to that one thing. Until they are ready to really step out and acknowledge that they have a problem, you cannot continue to be their tackling dummy.
No.
Because it just doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Right? So I'm going to say this, even though the bulk of the show, in terms of demographics, is targeted toward women, man, you got perspectives as well. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you're thinking. We want to hear what you're thinking about relationships. Because, remember that old book out there that men are from Mars and women are from Venus or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know. I think different galaxies.
Yeah, completely different galaxies, completely different universes, right?
Yeah.
The reality is we do think differently.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, my wife and I can be walking down the street and we can look at the same billboard, and I take one meaning, she takes another meaning.
Absolutely.
Or how about this? I can say something and she'll take it one way, but I really know my original intent. The reality is we were hardwired, and we were hardwired completely differently, and that's what makes us so beautiful and so wonderful. But at the same time, that's where miscommunication comes in. Folks, our relationship issues that exist out there can be solved once we actually start having those open communications.
Boy, that's it right there.
And we start talking.
That's it.
That's what giving you back to you is about. That's what we're here to do. And I'm going to tell you this right now. We're making history. Why are we making history? Because we're taking a look at the world and we're saying, you're not going to define our relationships. Hell, you're not going to define me.
Correct.
I'm going to define me by taking the affirmative step by actually asking the question, what do I want from my life? That's what giving you back to you is about.
That's exciting, Jason. That is exciting. You're kind of seeing this same philosophy, Jason, all around the world.
Absolutely.
I mean, you take a look at the Middle East right now. I mean, there is a conscious awakening there that just woke up, and they basically said the same thing. Now that's a whole country that's being abused.
Absolutely.
That's just not but it's the same. It's all perception.
It's all perception.
Whether individuals or a whole nation,
Mm-hmm.
and that whole nation decided to say no. No, we don't want that anymore. And how that came about is through information. And they are now have open dialogues where they're actually seeing because of the internet.
Right.
And because
Actually, Facebook was instrumental in the whole.
Exactly, because
Right.
that's giving everybody an opportunity, and that's what Jason here is trying to do for you. Give you the opportunity to give you back to you through Jason, and that's what Jason is here to do: is to explore those information highways. Who are you?
Right.
Who do you want to be?
Exactly.
And it's okay to be that. Don't let anybody say, I got to be honest with you here. I know we've only got a few minutes left here, but I've had some individuals, because of my age. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but
32.
32.
He is
I
a
like
young
it.
32.
A young 32.
32.
Let me pull this down a little bit. That looks much better. But
That's green screen.
Yeah, green. Right. Chia pet.
Right.
No, I'm an accomplished musician.
Sure.
And that's really what I want to do, because everybody was telling me, Bob, you can't do that, you can't do that, you're good, but you're not that good. You look at all the people out there trying to do that. What makes you so different? So I bought into that crap. Excuse my language.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm coming out, I'm out of the box and I'm reinventing myself.
Absolutely.
I said, what am I really good at? And now that I've found out, I really love to play, but at the same time, I still have it where people come up to me, Bob, you're really good, but you know what? You're just too old. They can't sell you. Nobody's going to like you. They're all saying no, no, no.